as painting companies get to that 2 million mark and they don't have great systems and they don't have great technology to kind of pair with those systems, there's just either underperforming or stress that goes along with it.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Aleph Ventures TV. I have the pleasure of having Mr. Nathan TenNapel on with me. Hey man, thanks for making some time.
Yeah, dude, I'm happy to be here. Super stoked. Love the Aleph team and excited about getting to hang out today.
Yeah. We saw each other last week at the PCA residential conference here in town. And it's good to see you. And yeah, it's been just fun to kind of see what you're up to with Boolean, and wanted to have you on and talk about that. So we'll get into that good stuff. Maybe just first, folks that don't know you, not aware, give us a little intro.
Yeah. My name is Nathan. I've been in the painting industry since 2011. I was hired on as a summer painter, as a summer job. 2012 was a returning JSM. So for those college pro folks out there, was a job site manager. And then at the time, the owner of the company had put himself through college and seminary and was looking to sell the business. And so myself and 4 others actually bought into the business, Select Painting, in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So at one time we had 6 owners. The original wanted to keep a little equity, and then there were 5 of us running the business. And I don't know if I'd recommend it, but like, hey, it's still running today. So there's a lot of ways to get places in life. Ultimately, one of our partners was had been in the college franchise world and passed on all of his, the knowledge and the systems and the training. And I was young and didn't know any better and just soaked it all up. Was just like a sponge and learned how the painting world worked. Eventually ended up running that business from about 2015 until 2021. Was in the president's seat for Select Painting in Sioux Falls. And then in 2021, me and my family moved to Kansas City. Kind of a combination of my wife got a job offer. She's a dance teacher, wanted to teach at the kind of pre-professional or professional level, and that just wasn't available in our little town, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So that was a big part of it. And when we first moved down here, we started Select Coatings, a concrete coatings division here in Kansas City. Ran that for 2.5 years and ended up selling that to kind of my right-hand man here in Kansas City. This past January, we sold that off. So, and that's when I started with Boolean, was January of this year, 2024.
Awesome, man. And then what's your title role at Boolean?
Sales development manager. So really, ultimately, I'm in charge of marketing and sales for the business.
Awesome, dude. Mm-hmm. Cool. We're going to get into some of that. I was talking to someone this week, Graham. Shout out to Graham if you see this. So the zoom out. The PayPal mafia? Have you heard of that term?
Yes, I have.
Right. The guys who kind of started PayPal are all the Elon Musk being, one of them, Peter Thiel, and then the guy, Reid Hoffman, who went on to do LinkedIn. Like there's all these guys that started these businesses. Yeah. And he said about College Pro, he's like, there's like the College Pro mafia. And I thought that was a great, very apropos, thing. So I'm going to use that now. Yeah. And I'm personally not a College Pro guy. Anybody who knows Aleph knows a lot of our guys have that background. And the former president of College Pro is now the president of our ventures arm. So we're College Pro, but yeah, man, there's so many College Pro folks.
That's right.
went on to be business owners and do cool things. So that's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, I never was under the College Pro umbrella officially. I never got a
Okay.
paycheck from
Okay.
College Pro, but the business was started. The guy who started it, his brothers ran a College Pro franchise, and he was like, I mean, I can do that and not pay a royalty.
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
how it was started. Yeah, and then one of the owners was I think he was a regional vice president for 10 years or something like that. So anyway, never got a paycheck from College Pro, but I'll claim the College Pro mafia. Probably second generation, but
There you
yeah.
go. There you go. Well, tell me a little bit about, so you started as a painter and then you became, president. What did that, um, yeah, was that like the plan all along? Like, just maybe tell me about that transition over time. And then too, like what did Select look like along the way?
Hmm.
I'd be curious on that.
Yeah. Planned it all out. 10 years. Knew
Yeah.
eventually it was going to be technology, but I better start as a painter first. So
Mhm.
if you don't have a 10-year plan, yeah, that's not the case at all. I didn't have a plan, not even a little bit of a plan. So, um, yeah, I mean, when I bought into the business, I don't have a college degree or anything, so it was like I didn't know what I was going to do. I was newly married, had a baby on the way, and it was like, well, I don't want to really work at a call center. I've got a bunch of call centers in Sioux Falls. The trade seemed like an interesting place, and that was kind of the door that opened for me back in 2013. Um, and then, I was, 22, 23 years old at the time. And, the value of who you surround yourself with and who your mentors are. And I was just, I don't know if I was smart to do the humble, hungry, smart by Patrick Lencioni. I don't know how smart I was, but I was humble and hungry. I was willing to learn from our mentor, Caleb Bruns. Um, and yeah, was a sponge and just soaked it up and took everything that he had. And he was a great, he had 100 franchises and 1,000 painters under him at one point. And he knew systems, and he knew leadership, and he knew people. And I, still get to connect with him every once in a while. And yeah, he's doing great things with Paul Davis franchise up in Minneapolis. Just
Yeah.
so, I mean, I think that was, the one thing that got me, to where I was able to run the company was just being a sponge and soaking it up. And I didn't have too much like head trash around what's possible and what's not and what's hard and blah, blah, blah. I was just like, all right, Caleb, let's go. Like, let's do this thing, whatever you say. He threw out some really big numbers that made no sense to me about how we were going to get there, but he had a plan, so we went for it. And then, so that started in 2013. In 2016, me and my current partner, ultimately we were like, yeah, I think we soaked up what we needed to. And a few of the other owners had moved on, to other things. And so we bought out Caleb, and we bought out the other owners, in 2016. And my partner was in the sales and sales management seat. And that's when I kind of took over and, again, just kept doing the things that Caleb had led us to do. And that's what kind of prepared me for being able to do that. So
I love that, man. I have a lot of respect for folks who it's like, all right, here's a best practice, and I'm just going to not think about it. I'm just going to like do it and
mm-hmm.
implement it and run with it. And there's a lot of beauty in that. Like I love reading books, but I would say I'm always skeptical of myself of like, I'm for sure one of those people that I've read a lot. Like my reading is way outpaced my execution. Right. And we have one of our partners, Royce Palmer, shout out to Royce. He's a guy that like, he reads too, but it's like his like read to implement gap is like very little. It's very small. Like he implements what he reads. And I think same thing, like mentorship is reading is kind of mentorship just at distance. Right. And
right.
So, I commend you for just like, I'm not going to complicate it in my head. Or it's a blessing of like, you don't know what you don't know. And you just implement. That's awesome. That's awesome. From that time, and I want to ask this now, and then I think kind of transitioning into Boolean, like I want to come back to this a little bit, but what were some of your just key takeaways of like, as because you guys had some good success, and so what were, there's a lot that goes into it, but like what were kind of the one or two most important things that kind of looking back, it's like, yeah, those were like, that's what we did well, or that's what we were focused on, or maybe that's what we did better than our competition, or other
Mm-hmm.
people in the industry don't, like, what do you think are kind of the one or two things that are just really important to be successful as a painting business owner?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think specifically I'll speak to like what kind of allowed us to scale, because I think it takes a certain set of disciplines and skill sets to get to, a million, million and a half, where really as an owner you can wrap your arms around the thing. Um, and then there comes a point about two to three, somewhere in there, where you got to have systems and you got to have other people in your business who, now they, like, you're really delegating. They have their head wrapped around a certain part of the business, and you're trusting them, right? Um, and so I would say, the things that we did well is we had systems, that we were taught, and we passed down. We were trained, but then we were also trained on how to train, and pass that knowledge, and then provide coaching along the way. And those things are really like, it's like systems and training and coaching, and it's like blah blah blah. I've heard, everybody says that, but it's like, man, those words, when you can execute them, are so powerful. Those words are worth millions of dollars to a painting company owner if you really take them seriously. um, and again, when I was given these things, I didn't know I didn't know these were $1 million ideas and processes and ways of doing things. But yeah, systems, training, and coaching, such a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that's the first thing. And then the second thing that I think we did uniquely that allowed us to grow and build a team was just our emphasis on what's our, like, why are we doing what we're doing? What's our vision? And that ultimately, I mean, in words, that was transforming lives, growing in excellence. That was our mission. But it was not just, in the handbook or even on the wall. It was in those things, but it was the heartbeat of what we did, right? When we had one-on-ones or management team meetings or quarterly planning meetings or whatever that may be, like, we always tried to come back to, how are we transforming lives? Are we growing in excellence? Are we really doing it? Like, what in those areas are we doing well? What do we need to continue doing? What do we need to improve on? And we just go back to it over and over and over and over again. Why are we doing what we're doing? Um, and
What
that
were
provided so much, yeah, just motivation and vision and clarity on what we're doing.
what were some of the way? I mean, that's great. Like to have that vision. What were some of the ways that you guys checked in on yourself? Like, how did you measure the lives being changed? How did you measure the excellence over the years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the lives being changed, I mean, the practicality of that was like, one-on-ones, I think, was a big thing. But then it's like almost part of your system, right? It's like the lifeblood behind the system. And when you train that, it's like, okay, here's the questions or the form to fill out. But it's like explaining the why behind it. Like, what are we checking in? When you say, how are you doing at the beginning of a one-on-one, like, what's behind that? You know,
Hmm.
why are you doing that? Well, it's because if you don't care about the person, they're not going to care about what you have to teach them or say to them, right? And as humans, we have to, like, there's so much life and fulfillment when people feel cared about. Like, that's really important. People are not going to, our mission for our people was to create an environment that empowers one to reach their full potential. And so as leaders and as owners and as managers, it was our job to create that environment. So when you ask, how are you doing at the beginning of a one-on-one, Like that's what you're doing. You're creating this environment where people feel cared about. And that's the environment where people reach their full potential.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just like, I mean, that's one small example, but it's like it's infused into everything. Right.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's so at times in practice it can feel so counterintuitive. But obviously for us, coaching especially is so important, and it's both important for the individual, like for their individual fulfillment, satisfaction. I think, anybody listening to this, it's like name the life scenario, whether it was like if you played sports or if you had a job at one point, or whatever it is. If you've been coached where it's like somebody has spent direct time with you, helping you,
Mm-hmm.
not like mere accountability or check in on you or like make sure you're getting stuff done, that's accountability.
Mm-hmm.
That has its place. That's very important.
Mm-hmm.
Coaching is very, very different and distinct from accountability, in that it's supportive, and it's like you can't genuinely check the box on coaching without like really investing time and caring. Like if you don't care, you're just not gonna coach. It's almost like, I don't know many people that are like have businesses and they coach their people all the time. They have a really good culture on coaching, and they also don't like care a lot about their people. Like I know a
Right.
lot of the other things. And it's like, if you really want effective people, you got to coach them. And then just one of the beautiful things of that too is that that's very fulfilling for those people.
Mm-hmm.
Like they get built up, they gain real skills that can change their life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, man, I
Yeah.
love that. That's something that we really, really, really try to focus on here internally, and then create that culture in our partnerships too, that coaching model.
Yeah. And just to riff, just to keep riffing, I think a good coach too, like they care about the results, but they're very open handed about it. Like I am here to give. I'm here to be, to be here for you and to give what you need and help you to get to where you want to go. And I'd love for the business to be profitable and all of these things too. But a good coach is they're just coming to give and support. And like ultimately it's one of those counterintuitive things where um like you're gonna get back 10 times what you give, but you got to give with, but there's no expectation of like receiving, right? That's what a good coach is doing. They're giving without this like quid pro quo type of mentality, right? Or it's like, a good salesperson, doesn't hold on tightly, and they're not pushy, and their identity isn't wrapped up in did they get the sale or not or whatever. Like a good salesperson is curious and asks questions and is really open handed about the result. And I think that applies to coaching too.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that of like salespeople are effective, like obsessive problem solvers.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sense in which, if you have a customer, like they're calling you because they have a problem, and they're trying to find a solution. And if you're just kind of obsessive about helping them, genuinely help them find the best solution, and you're really good at that, so you're really like driving to the root of like, what is the real problem,
Mm-hmm.
and what are you trying to solve? Why are you trying to solve it that way? Why is that important to you? Da 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 da.
Yeah.
You're going to be very helpful, and that tends to go. I think similar with coaches, it's
Mm-hmm.
like if you're kind of that selfless, I'm trying to just give you everything I know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
transfer skill. I don't know if in Caleb gave it to you this way. We talk about this, and Alex is a big thought leader, our COO, who's a college pro guy. Kind of the like 10-70-20 rule between like training, coaching, and accountability. So if you think of like how to develop somebody, a salesperson, a PM, any role, like 10% of it is training. Training being read the playbook, follow, read the SOP, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is. That's like 10% of it. And then 20% of it is accountability, clear weekly goals, tracking those goals, clarity of data. And then, okay, I'm going to ask you about this every week. Right? Like a culture of accountability and a cadence of accountability. But like 70% of their effectiveness is not either of those things. 70% of their effectiveness is coaching, shoulder to shoulder, hours. This is not like, coaching is never really measured in minutes. It's measured, it really has to be in a painting context. I would say it measured in like, how many bids did you go on with your salespeople? How many job sites did you visit with your project managers? And I think a lot of times it's like, people think that training is what they need to figure out how to get better at, or better SOPs or whatever. And then, all right, I want to hold them accountable. I want good software, hold them accountable. But they just miss out on the coaching. And it's the costly part. I mean, I would say like, it's costly. Like, you have to dedicate real time to it. You have to be patient. I mean, I would just like, as a leader, coaching is the most costly part of leading. And I don't know, in my experience, I don't know if you validate that.
Yeah, totally. It is. And it's why people have, it's the objection of like, I don't have time to, I don't have time to do that. Right. But it's like, you look at, I don't know, I think for one, it's incredibly fulfilling, but it's also like, I mean, you can get lucky and hire somebody who just has all the skills, right? And that can be a home run. But 90% of the time, there's got to be some development, right? To get somebody to the point where they are an all-star, for the business. And it's 70% of getting somebody there is the coaching piece of it. And that takes time and hard work and emotional work and emotional awareness and, all these soft skills that are such a big deal.
Yeah. And I would say too, like, the business owners that I've met and the businesses that I've seen, any of them that have had success for like over 5 like contiguous years are like, figure out coaching. Like, I think there's people that, to your point, they can make kind of a good hire, get lucky a little bit, and nothing wrong with that. Like, that's business. Like, you got to get lucky. You got a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you want to have like a brand that lasts like a decade plus, it's just really hard to do that without getting good at coaching, because you might not get the best hire that just has the skills, but that doesn't mean that person's a lost cause. You could develop them into an A player, but you got to develop them. Right. If you can't figure that out, it's really, really hard to be successful over the long haul. But awesome, man. Tell me about like transitioning out of the painting world. Like, what drew you to Boolean? Like, as you were kind of thinking about what's next.
Yeah, that was a huge decision. One, selling the market, and two, not, going back into the business, right? As an owner, I'm a 50% owner. There was a huge part of me that was like, you don't have a choice. Like, you've got a great thing going, and like, what, how silly to do something else. Right. But I think there were a few things that led to, that decision. And one, like, I was super confident in the team in Sioux Falls, when we decided to sell Kansas City and focus on our home market, like, was so confident in the leaders that were there. And it's like, there was no area of the business where it was like, yeah, this is really going to suffer if Nate's not in there. And like, I thought that for a long time. Like, as I was running the company, I was like, I don't want to be needed here forever. Right. Again, Just like another maybe example of like, I read the book and was like, oh, that sounds great. Like, I'll try start thinking that way and acting that way and whatever, and so I didn't ever know what that was going to look like, and never would have planned it how it happened. But, I I had thought that way for a long time. Like I want to set this thing up to be where I'm not needed. And then that came about, and it was, yeah, ultimately super confident in what the leadership at Select was able to do. So that led to me kind of having the choice, right? And then, I think when it came down to, what do I want to do? It was a combination. It was really like kind of soul searching a little bit because I hadn't thought about what else I might want to do, right? And there was again the part of me that was kind of shoulding of like should do certain things, right?
Because you said you didn't go to college. So did I catch
Correct.
that?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so, and then how old were you whenever like Select got rolling with the six of you?
20, yeah, 23. Yeah.
Okay, so you had worked a couple of years as like in jobs, but you had been a business owner
Mm-hmm.
since you were 23.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly right.
So, yeah. So
Um,
imagining a scenario that wasn't that is for your day to day. I mean, but yeah, interesting.
yeah. Yeah. And then I think, I just had a few people as I was kind of just like trying to get feedback from mentors and people that I trusted. A few different people like really challenge me. Like, what do you want? Not what do you feel like you should do, or what are people going to think if you do this or do this? Like what do you really, really want? What does Nate want? And that can feel like a selfish question a little bit to me. That can feel like, um, you know, yeah, that ultimately was a hard question to answer. But there were things about, just the ages of my kids and the time and that I wanted to spend with them. That was important to me. And the type of work. What did I want to do? And technology had always interested me, and was always trying to tinker with things at Select. And so it was like, man, technology would be so fun, and to be able to do it in the painting industry, which I know sounds great. And I know technology is going to have a huge impact over the next 10 years, and to be a part of that and be a part of bringing world class technology to the painting industry. Like, yes, that sounds fun to me, right? Not everybody would say that, but to me that sounded
Sure.
fun. Like I really wanted that. And then for me, like I love adventures. I love change too. So it's like more of the same or something different. And that can be um that can that can be an issue of mine, like wanting something different too soon, right? It's the shiny object syndrome for sure. So, but like I just know myself, and I love new adventures and love trying new things. And so, did I want to keep doing, more of the same, or did I really want something different? Um, and so, ultimately, yeah, those are some of the like factors. Um, but I think the thing I want to emphasize is like, just going for what you want. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people don't do that. There's reasons why they do things,
Well,
and it's
and
not really about what they
yeah, and
want.
that
It's because of fear or whatever.
that was something I wanted. Yeah, I was curious about, and as we were talking, at the conference and stuff, just fascinating. Like, and what I do, for Aleph, director of development, I walk folks through a discovery process to see if a partnership with Aleph makes sense for them, right? And makes sense for them, makes sense for Aleph. Is it a good fit? And obviously, a big part of that is okay. What are your goals? Where are you trying to get to? So, I mean, I get into these. Like this is what I'm doing all the time is talking with folks about, because it's so important, because I can talk about what Olive does and you know our processes and our infrastructure and our team, and right, I can get all practical and pragmatic. I tell people all of that is a moot point if you're not clear on where you want to go, what you really are trying to accomplish. And it's been very fascinating as I've done this, how unclear people are, and I would say also unstable. Like there are all kinds of competing thoughts or ideas, or the shoulds, as you kind of said, like people feel like they should do something. And it
Mm-hmm.
can be both ways. Like one of the distinctions that we talk about is more of a like a lifestyle business versus more of an asset type business.
Mm-hmm.
And we genuinely believe there's not a right or wrong of that. Like a lifestyle business that is going to be a little bit more dependent on you. It's going to be a little bit more tied to you.
Mm-hmm.
But the lifestyle business category. There's a lot of like phenomenally happy, fulfilled people that run their
Mm-hmm.
business that way, making great money, enjoying, like, they've kind of orchestrated it such that they only do in their business what they really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Like there's nothing wrong with that. There's pros and cons to that. Then
Yeah.
there's folks that's like building more of an organization, more of an asset. This is like the approach that you kind of took, what we're geared towards. There's pros and cons to that, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not a right or wrong. And I very frequently come across people that feel like they should, do something, but they haven't really done the work to think of like, why would I?
Mm-hmm.
What should I be, or what should I do? So I'd be curious for you, like, just reflecting back, you mentioned a little bit, but like, what advice would you give somebody, like if they have kind of an inflection point in their business? And that could be a lot of different things. Like, should I go this direction with my business? Should I go that direction? Should I make a big investment, or should I throttle back? Maybe like those big decisions. Any pointers on just like how to go about that process in an effective way? Like what was helpful for you?
Um, yeah, I think so. The first things that come to mind and that were helpful for me um, was like asking myself, in 10 years, if I look back on my life and I had I'll say at this point, I had a fork in the road. What's the 10 or 20 or 30-year-old version of me what advice are they gonna give? You know? And I think that brings a little bit of clarity, like brings you out of the moment, brings you out of the emotions, brings you out of um, some of the shoulds or the what you think others might be thinking of you, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. For me that was helpful. Um, the other thing that it's like as you're processing through, all of the pros and the cons and all the kind of tactical things, it's like where are you this world is abundant, and it's easy to feel like it's not. It's easy to feel like there's scarcity in the world and there's not enough, and you've got to protect what you have, and you have to, like, if you're not kind of worried or afraid, like you're gonna lose it all, right? And like I think that scarcity mindset um can just hold you back so much, and it can hold you back from the life that you really want to live, right? It's like I've got 3 kids, and would it be like I really really want to spend more and more time with them, but like time is money, and I've got to work to make money, and what if this doesn't work? Like, you just get into these scarcity mindset things, but it's like when you find yourself thinking that way in the scarcity mindset, or that there's not going to be enough or whatever, I just like challenge you to like, no, this world is abundant, and like you can have what you want, and you can, like, you don't have to be afraid, right? If you have a plan and you have a vision and you know where you want to go, like, there is abundance for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. That's great. Um, Love that, man. So tell me a little bit more on Boolean. Like what I've gotten to know a little bit more. But I was telling you, you know, we've been kind of acquaintances for a little while here, and I'd seen that transition and had seen the name, but was somewhat unaware. But you were filling me in a little bit last week, and I thought it was really cool. So maybe just give an overview, kind of an introduction if folks have not heard of Boolean. What is it?
Yeah. Boolean automation. I mean, in a short sentence or two, we help painting companies that are 2 to 4 million in revenue set up their technology and systems so that they can scale to 5 or 7 or 10 or 20 million. That's the short answer. Technology and systems for scaling painting companies. Yeah.
Sure. Tell me more about like, how are you guys doing that? And maybe too, it's like, all right, that 2 to 4 million, what are some of the problems that folks are running into that make you guys relevant to what they're trying to do?
Yeah. I think some of the problems that people are running into is either they don't have great systems, and so it's kind of just Wild West, like just get the job done, which again, up to 1 million or right around there, like that works. You can get a lot done doing it that way. But then when you make your first few key hires and you're like, all right, just watch me do this, and that's kind of your training program, like as they don't have the personality you do, they're not the owner of the company, and they are trying to pick up what you're doing, and it's just not transferable, right? So those key hires are either underperforming because they don't have a system to follow, and they don't have just the intuition and experience that you do as an owner, or maybe they are performing well but they're stressed. They are like, they're trying to do the Wild West thing and make you happy as an owner, but there's a reason they didn't start their own business. It's because they're not, they don't love the chaos and the stress, right? And so we see that very often, that as painting companies get to that 2 million mark and they don't have great systems and they don't have great technology to kind of pair with those systems, there's just either underperforming or stress that goes along with it. And again, it goes back to, scaling painting companies need systems. And I think, when I first started with this, it was like, yeah, we'll help you set up your technology, right? You need a CRM, you need a way to intake leads, you need a, estimating and proposal platform, you need a project management system, you need technology to solve those problems, right? It can just make it faster and more organized. That's great. And I think that's very true. But what I've come to realize that the real value in what we do is, yes, here's the piece of technology, here's the CRM, but along with that goes, hey, we worked with 15 painting companies that are between 4 and 10 million. And this is how they use the CRM. This is how they set it up. These are the stages. These are the activities. These are the automations. This is how you convert leads. This is how you do your sales follow-up. And yes, you're getting the CRM, but you're getting a system to go along with it and standard operating procedures to go along with it that you can train your team on how to use, right? And so that's where I've come to realize that's like, almost over half the value of what you're getting when you work with Boolean. It's not just HubSpot for a CRM, which is a phenomenal tool, but it's like how to use it, how to set up, what are all the data points you need, and what's the process for doing things that are going to get you the key results that you need to scale.
Yeah, I love that, man. It's so good. I'd be curious when it comes to some of the software specific points, because this is something I feel like some of the solution that you guys are bringing to the market is some of what we felt like at Aleph. You go back when it was just Pierce painting, pain that we felt that we solved in a different way, developing our own software and scaling it. But like, what's like some common software specific solutions that you guys are bridging or kind of pulling together for those $2 to $4 million businesses?
Yeah, totally. Well, I'll back up and give a little bit of context and just kind of thought around all of this, right? Because when you're scaling your business and you're like, oh man, if I can apply technology to my systems, now I can automate things and make it easier and faster, and I can automate redundant administrative tasks, and I can get reports and all of these things. It's like, I think we've been around Apple long enough to know what a good integrated system feels like, and we're like, man, that'd be great to have that in my painting business. Well, there's a few different options, right? And one is the route that you guys went, where you build your own custom software, and it's phenomenal. You guys have been working on it for, I don't know, 10 years, 8 years.
Yeah.
I don't know when they started coding, but like ultimately it started on Jason's wall, right? With magnets and whiteboards, right? That was the beginning of the software. You have a tile right there.
Right. This is the original. This is one of the original tiles. This is my handwriting here. These are subway tiles with magnets hot glued on the back, and then color coding how we did this. So this is like Aleph lore right here. But yeah, that was a long time ago, and
that was the beginning of the software. And ultimately you guys were like, we want to make this into a technology, right? And that's one option that every company has. You can go build your own custom software, and you can get it exactly the way that you want it. That's the beauty of custom software, right?
Sure.
But it takes a long time, and it's pretty expensive.
Very expensive.
That's the downside. And that's why people don't do it. And it takes a lot of expertise. And I've talked to a lot of companies, a handful of businesses that have put a lot of time and money, similar to you guys. And really, at the end of the day, they didn't get what they wanted.
Totally. We've heard it too.
So that there's trade-offs, right? With all of these things. What Boolean has kind of where we've landed is we want to build something that is as close to custom as we can get. But when we can use off-the-shelf software that's already built, we want to be able to use that tool, right? Build with Legos versus building with, construction material or whatever it is. And so that's kind of been our approach. Like, when we can use an off the shelf piece of software, it's got to have the functionality that we need, for one. And for two, just as important, probably more important, it has to integrate really, really, really well. It has to integrate with everything, right? And Amazon was they were the leaders of integration and API back in 2000. And the reality is, some softwares that are built today, they have all the functionality in the world, but they don't want to play with others, right? So it's not like, for what we do, that's a no-go. I don't care if you're the best software, best estimating software in the world. If you don't integrate, it's a deal breaker. So we've ultimately chosen to go with trying to find existing platforms that already exist and then integrating them really, 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 really well. That's, I feel like, where our niche is, where our expertise is, right? A lot of people have played with Zapier or Make or whatever, and the overwhelming, response is like, yeah, it works like 80% of the time, and then it breaks, or if this certain scenario happens, it doesn't work the way that I want it to. And so, I don't know, Zapier is okay, right? And that's where I feel like we have become experts in how to integrate software for a painting business, and do it in ways that don't just work 80% of the time for 80% of the scenarios, but they work for 98% of the scenarios, right? And most people's zaps are, 5 to 7 steps, maybe, for a complicated one. When I look at what our developers build, it's like 25 to 40 different steps, right? And 5 of them are used most of the time, but the other 40 are for all the different scenarios that can happen that normally it just wouldn't work, and you'd have to manually do something, right? But if you can build it in a smarter way and integrate in a smarter way, that's where we've just really gone deep. And I feel like we're what we're experts in. So it's that integration piece, and then integrating really good tools that already exist in the world. And we feel like, for a certain business, for you guys, I'm sure custom development has been great. I don't know if anybody at Aleph has ever said, I regret, investing in Wology, right? It's probably not the case, but we've found that, with the way that we're doing it, we can do it a lot faster than a custom development, probably 10 times faster. We're at a point where we can give somebody a really, really, really good system in about 3 months as far as the full planning, and it's very customized and to exactly how they want to do business, and we can roll that out quickly. So we can do it a lot faster, and I'll venture to say a lot cheaper than what Wology has been as well. I throw out the number 10 times faster and 10 times cheaper. And I'm pretty confident. I think it's close. I don't know the exact numbers of Wology, or, obviously,
Sure.
Custom development costs different things, but, we've gone kind of the integration and Lego route because we think it's about 10 times faster and 10 times cheaper than doing your own custom thing.
Yeah. And I think there's an element of, we definitely were very fortunate in the developer relationship that we had. So there's all kinds of very unique serendipitous elements to like that led to success in our case, that it's like, if our same group of guys went and, started another business and did another route, it's like, I don't know that we would do, like, if those things weren't there, we might not do it again, So, and I think what you guys are doing is really important. We talked about this, but if you're a software, company in the painting industry, you want to make a product that appeals to a lot of people. Well, the majority of the painting industry is not $2 to $4 million businesses. Right. That is actually a very small sliver of the industry. So it makes sense that a lot of the software tools that come to market are not, if that's just not their primary target market. Like they want it to work for them, but they need it to sell across the entire, market share. So I do think that $2 to $4 million, and obviously, we're scaling a business, and Paris Painting ran, I think it was up to $3 million on spreadsheets, like zero CRM, zero anything, because we just felt like connecting ourselves to some of these one-dimensional tools was challenging. So I think that 2 million, 3 million, 4 million plus market is very underserved from a software standpoint in the industry. And so I think you guys bringing subject matter expertise of like how to make the best of it and bringing other solutions is really important. So definitely check these guys out. I'm curious for you, having your own experience with those things, like firsthand experience to like growing pains and systems and stuff. But now you get to kind of consult and see behind the curtain a little bit on other companies and their challenges. Like, I don't know, were there any thoughts that you had, conclusions about software systems that you had that have been like changed by this experience, or maybe just confirmed? I'd just be curious if like being on this side of it, kind of on the vendor side of it, and just getting exposure to a lot of different companies, anything has been like eye-opening in that?
Yeah. I mean, great question. You're good at what you do, Hogan. The first thing that comes to mind is this idea of like when I was running my business, I was like, oh, this is my responsibility to figure out the technology. Like I've got to do it. I'm the business owner. I have to figure out the CRM and figure out how to set it up and figure out how to do the reports that I want and figure out like all this kind of technology stuff, right? That's my job. And I was okay at it. Like I had some wins, I had some losses, I had some things that I had to scrap. I had some things that like today I'm like, oh, it's a pretty freaking great spreadsheet, pretty proud of it. Like it worked.
Yeah, totally.
And I've seen a lot of people, been this last year, have been interviewing businesses essentially about their technology, and some people have built some pretty great things. And, but for the most part, what I hear is like, I tried really hard, or I paid a lot of money to somebody who wasn't in the painting industry, and like I spent a lot of time, and I'm like, meh, like it's okay. Like it got me to where it worked. Like when I built it enough, But now that I've grown, like now I'm kind of back at a spot where it doesn't work. Right. And so anyway, this idea of like, as a business owner, you have to figure out your own technology. Well, I would say no, like as a business owner, you need to sell paint jobs and
Hmm.
find labor. That is your business. And that is the thing that you need to be the best in the world at. And that's where 90% of your focus should go, right? You know, um, business owners could do their own taxes, right? They could learn how
Sure.
to be a CPA and file with the IRS. And you might do it wrong a couple times, but eventually, like most painting business owners are smart enough to figure that out. But why would, like, that's not your business. That's not
Yeah.
filing your taxes is not your business. So it's very accepted and standard to hire a CPA to file your taxes for you, right? It's like, this
Sure.
makes sense. I'm not in that business, right? I'm going to focus on growing my business, and like my most valuable thing as a business owner is my time, and where am
Right.
I putting it, right? And so I would argue like technology fits more with like bookkeeping and filing your taxes. It's more in that bucket than it is
That's
the thing that really moves the needle for your
that's
business.
super insightful. And that totally makes sense. It's like it's kind of an accepted given of like, oh, dude, stop doing your own bookkeeping. There's services for that. Go
Yeah.
just hire it out. Why would you waste your time? But it's yeah, whenever it comes to software, they don't yeah. It's like, oh, something's wrong with me. Or they feel that burden to have to figure that out themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That totally makes sense. But I'd say I think that is even that mindset and that mentality. I think it's because the market conditions. It's like that those people are underserved. They don't have a lot of options. It's like there's not other people
Yeah.
to solve that for them.
Right. Yeah.
Which again, I think is I love what you guys are doing, and I think that's super insightful. Like, and that makes sense of why it should be different. So that's great, man. Well, dude, that's a great place to wrap. I appreciate you making some time and hopping on here. Would love to do it again sometime in the future. If folks are interested in Boolean, if folks want to maybe sync up with you
Mm-hmm.
and hear a little bit more, what's like the best way to get connected to you or to Boolean?
Yeah, I can. I've got a booking link that I can put in. Maybe some show
Great.
notes or whatever. That's great. Otherwise, Nathan at helloboolean.com would be the email address. Otherwise, you can check out our website. But yeah, there's a couple options for you.
Cool. Are you guys doing any content stuff? Is there any podcasts or anything like that you guys are doing?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for asking. Chris has a YouTube video or a YouTube channel
Okay.
where he is giving away so much free stuff on how to set up the technology for your business. He's a year into making content, and I think he has over 200 videos
Wow.
on just like super nerdy niche stuff on technology for painting businesses and integrations and zaps and just go check it out if you've got issues with any sort of technology, and he probably has a video that's gonna unlock something for you if you're
Sweet.
not ready to hire
I
it out.
love that. Love that. If you're listening to this, the booking link and the YouTube channel link are likely in the show notes. So check that out. Hey man, good to see you. Good to see you last week. Keep up the good work. We'll talk again soon.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thanks. Mm-hmm.